Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is trainer education, and we're going to discuss remembering client details. So, tell you a little story about me is I recently have gone to I go to a couple people for kind of like physical therapy type, chiropractic type things, because I feel they each have their own kind of specialty, and sometimes I need some things popped back into place, and that takes maybe like a chiropractor, and then other times I need like Graston work or dry needling or ART, and often that requires a physical therapist. So I kind of do bounce around a little bit, but it helps me to make sure I get the best treatment for each individual need I have. And recently I went to one of the people who kind of helps me towards this, and it was an interesting experience. So the person is a super kind person. They're just really busy in business. Their business is growing, and things kind of they're growing with them. Let's just say that. So they're transitioning and growing as a person and as a business manager as their business is growing. And I have been there myself, and I hope to continuously stay there, actually. So that way I'm always becoming a better person, and hopefully the business is always growing. But what I thought was interesting, and what sparked the idea for this podcast, was I went in, and the person and I had previously discussed an issue that I had been dealing with. And the last time we had talked, we had said that we were going to kind of address that issue. Well, when I went in this time, we did some treatments and this and that, and it was kind of more general based, just general health type stuff. And kind of as we got towards the end of the time, I started realizing, oh crap, I don't think they remembered what we were going to work on. And it kind of like right when I was about to kind of say something, they were wrapping up, and I knew it was kind of the full amount of time that they had allotted, so I kind of didn't say anything. And that was on me. I could have spoke up. But in fairness to myself, I didn't recognize I needed to speak up until almost the end. So I kind of had thought, like, this is what we discussed last time, so we would come in and we'd pick right up where we left off. Well, the person had gotten so busy in business that they kind of forgot that that's what we had discussed. And there were like hints in the conversation here or there of what they remembered to us discussing in the past, but they definitely didn't remember all the details. And I have friends and clients that are going to this person as well, and they experienced some of the same things. Now, I have had a million mistakes and a million growth pains in my own process, so I absolutely do not mean to be talking negatively towards this person, which is absolutely why I'm not using their name. They're great at what they do. They truly are. But they just kind of seem to be a little bit absent-minded in the sense of the past of the clients at the moment. And that's understandable. They're seeing a lot of new people, blah, 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 blah. So enough of me apologizing for them. But what I thought would be interesting was when I left the session, my body felt better, but my heart did not. And what I mean by that is I had a good treatment for my body, but it wasn't good personal treatment. You didn't feel kind of significant. You know, it's almost like you were just another number that day. And you got like, you know, they pushed you around, did this, did that, da-da-da-da-da. It was good, boom, out the door. But it was like, ugh, like, you know, where was the personalization? Where was the, you know, that kind of like sense of feeling like you mattered? Now, sometimes people were going to argue is like, what the hell, you know, what does it matter? You got the results. Well, no, I didn't, because I went expecting to get a treatment on a very specific thing, and we did not address that. So it was kind of like I didn't get what I wanted, and I didn't get treated in the sense that I was remembered. And that's more so what I want to get to is with us as trainers, no matter how much you get overwhelmed, it's important that you always remember your clients. And what I mean by this is you're going to remember your client's name, okay? Because they're on the schedule. You're going to remember that at least. But what I mean is remembering more about their life. So you can remember things about their training, and that's absolutely 1,000,000% necessary. And I would argue that's more important than remembering things about their life, like kids' names, spouse names, stuff like that. But why not do both? Why limit ourselves to just one or the other when both are equally kind of beneficial? So I've been very lucky in the sense that I've talked with a lot of young trainers, and they'll often ask, like, when I train, I very rarely have a piece of paper or anything I track with me in my hand. For some clients, I do, because what we do is very specific. And sometimes with other clients, we're doing more general concept style training. So I don't always have like anything that I record anything with. And they'll ask me, they're like, man, how do you remember things? And I'm like, oh, well, this person, when they get on the Smith, like on the leg extension, they need the ankle pad at 3, the hip adjustment at 1, they need the backrest at 4. But I know another client might need it at 4, 1, and 6. Another client might need it at 2, 1, 2 because they're really short. So I remember that stuff really well, and I'm very blessed in that way. So I do have, even when I used to train 50 hours of clients a week, I very rarely wrote anything down because I could just remember it because we were doing it all the time. So I do have a very good memory for clients, like machine settings, their numbers for lifts, like what they've benched last time we did bench press, things like that. And I've been very fortunate. But even from time to time, I will forget. And every once in a while, I'll catch myself remembering like halfway through the session. And I'll kind of start them into the session. We'll start going, and then I'm like, oh crap, yeah, we were supposed to address something on like their elbow, and like you'll remember this thing or that thing, and it's kind of a bummer. I hate like remembering it halfway through. So on any time I feel like I have a client where I do like once or twice forget something, I'll start to record information on them. And I think this is the general practice that people should do with everybody all the time. So like I said, I didn't do this when I started out, but I wish I would have. And I've been very blessed for my memory, so I haven't had to do it. But there is benefits to it, even if you don't feel like you have to. Now, a lot of the young trainers I have helped and done consultations with, they absolutely have to because they're not remembering things, and or they feel overwhelmed with new things that they're trying to put into the session. So, for example, if they're with a client and it's the first time they're really teaching a client how to do a barbell squat, and they're trying to remember all their technique cues, you don't want to also have to remember how high the J-cup should go, what was the weight the person used last time for sets of 3 or 5 or 10, like what was an issue you worked on last time, like did they have their cues were really good but their breathing was not, or like they breathed perfectly fine but they kind of unhinged their hips and they didn't have, rigidity in their core. So you have to want to remember that kind of stuff so that way you can build upon each session. So that's very helpful to know to alleviate anxiety, alleviate stress, alleviate the feeling of being overwhelmed, and to make sure that you take care of your people as safe as possible. The other benefit is it's helpful at remembering personal life stuff. So that's actually what I'm horrible at. I became a trainer because I love to train. And as I trained more, I realized, holy crap, you have to be like almost a little bit of a therapist at the same time. So it helps to remember people's spouses' names or kids' names or life events or things that are going on in their life. Maybe you meet on a Wednesday and they're talking about this upcoming weekend. They're a little worried about something, like how something might go in their life. So if you see them next Wednesday, it's nice to kind of ask them how that thing went. It's good to have some kind of memories like that. In the sense of like asking about their personal life. So I am horrible at that. And I'll forget kids' names, like people's kids' names, even if I've been training for like 5 years. So it's not something that I'm very good at. So I try my best to write them down. And that's what I thought would be interesting to talk to you all about on this podcast was creating a system where you remember client details. So this is something that you would update each day at the end of the day, and it doesn't take that long. So I have clients that I do this with, and I update their payment info every day anyhow. So at the end of the day, you're going to have financials that you're going to record. So you're going to record, okay, I met this person, they paid me this much today, or I met this person, they couldn't pay today, but they're going to pay next time. So you have like a system of things you do every day, or you should. For financial recordings. So then just at the same time, you would take literally 1 minute per client. It doesn't even take that, to be honest with you, but literally 1 minute. So even if you met 8 clients a day, you can get this done in 8 minutes. If you won't invest 8 minutes into bettering your experience for your clients, you should be a trainer. So it only takes a minute a person, so I promise it's worth it, and it won't take a bunch of your time. And then what you can do is you can review it each morning. So before you meet the clients for that day, you would review their information. And you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I have, so-and-so coming in at 10 o'clock. I remember we wanted to work on their lower back. Oh, I have so-and-so coming in at 3. I remember they had like a weakness in the right side of their hip. So I want to make sure I do some kind of unilateral work today to work on that. So it's just a real quick review to get your mindset where you need it per client for the day. So you can do it on Excel or Word. So you can do it on a million other systems, but those are the systems that I've recommended people use. So I use Word because I'm old and it just makes more sense to me. But there might be new updatable systems that are better than Word. But I just have the client name. I have PRs, so personal records for certain lifts. I have injury concerns. I have notes, and then I have family details. So, for example, let's go through this. So, for the person, they'll have their name, first and last name. Then, like their PRs, their important lifts. So, for example, I have one person I work with, and they are working to address rheumatoid arthritis. So, they're trying to address arthritic issues. So for us to work on their arthritis the best, I have to improve their strength. So we're actually working on strength, like in just pure absolute strength. So not even relative strength. So how strong they are to their body weight. I need them to just get stupid freaking strong. So the stronger they are, the more the muscles will accept the wear and tear and kind of the stress of the day, rather than that stress getting into the joints and causing inflammation. We're also working against osteoporosis. So they're trying to improve bone density. So one of the ways to improve bone density is to put a shit ton of weight on your bones. So, and that actually sparks the body to thicken the bones, or at least reverse some of the process or stall out the process of osteoporosis. So I've been working with this person for 2 years. They've done tests with their doctors. I think they do them every like 6 months or so. And we've actually reversed the osteoporosis process in their lower body that we've been able to load through a leg press. So we do leg press for very heavy sets of 10s. And I'll record the variation of leg press we do because we don't do the same style every time. So sometimes we do normal leg press, sometimes we do a deload at the bottom and they have to kind of explode up through it. It's almost like a box squat on a leg press because our leg press has that feature. We also have various foot positions we can use in our leg press. We use bands or no bands, so there's a lot of variety to the style that we use. So about every 8 workouts we flip the style and do something different. Sometimes we do overloaded styles, sometimes we do underloaded styles, but we try to get in a variety so that way they continue to make progress every time they come in. So, for example, the first workout we ever did, this person, I think, could even do 45 pounds of leg press, and now they're doing 330 some pounds for sets of 10, so it's a big ass improvement. And so that's the kind of stuff I'll record. So if I have another person, maybe they've done like a 5-rep max on deadlifts, so I'll record that, so that way if we come back to it, a couple months later, I'll know where to pick up or what to reference off of. So it's important to kind of list their most important lifts. You absolutely 1,000,000% do not need to record their PRs for every day exercise. Okay, so you don't need to know their bicep curl PR, their lateral raise PR. Just pick the things that you think, like maybe top 5 lifts that relate to their needs the most. So for my person with the reversing osteoporosis and taking care of overall strength, I don't care how much they can bicep curl. That's never going to help either one of those things really. So we don't record that. I just have them come in. If we ever do bicep curls, I just have them try to their best that day, and that's what it is. But on the big lifts that affect their progress towards their main goals, we do record that to make sure we can always move forward. It also helps that if you have a client who lifts on their own. So I've had clients come in before and they're like, oh man, I got the leg press for 270 pounds for 10 reps. And you're like, well, I wonder if that's any good. I don't remember. so if they're excited, you kind of play back on, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Or if they're like, oh man, I only got 270 pounds this week for 10 reps. Oh yeah, that's a bummer. But you have no clue what the hell they're supposed to do. So I think as trainers, we've all been there before, where they'll tell you something that's super excited, or they'll tell you the scale. Like, it'll say, like, you'll get a text or an email. It says, like, maybe 156 today. You're like, crap, what were they like not today? Look, what were they before today? So before you can write back and say, hey, awesome, you have to go see if that actually is awesome. So having some of this stuff recorded is helpful because as much as you do want to share in that person's journey, and we do appreciate our clients, there's more than just one. So sometimes it's hard to remember. So recording their PRs, and that can even include like body weight. So it's basically recording numbers that are important for their progress. Okay. So it helps to have context if they tell you things so you'll know how they did. And then also to that way you can see if your programming is actually freaking benefiting the person. So if you find out in month 1 that you wrote down a certain weight for, say, leg press, and all of a sudden in month 6 you're using the same damn weight, that's not good. So they need to be getting stronger, okay? So the next thing we have is injury concerns. So I usually write down if there's anything I need to work on. So for example, I have one client, he has bad knees, and we found out that if we overwork his hamstrings, it actually makes his knees worse. So sometimes, for example, if somebody has quadricep pain and patella tendon pain, like in the kneecap, sometimes working their hamstrings can actually help to recenter their knee joint, and they often feel better. This person actually feels worse. So we've had to be very, very careful about the way we train their hamstrings, so I had to make a note about that. The same person also has uneven back movement. So their musculature of their back does not move equally side to side, and that has caused lower back pain before when doing exercises that the lower back has to support upper body movement. So think of like a bent over T-bar row. So their lower back would have to hold that position, but if their upper back moves unevenly, their lower back is going to hold an uneven type of pressure from side to side, and that actually causes back pain for them. So we've actually found that isometrics, like holds in a squeezed position on rows or pull-ups, actually works really well for balancing out the musculature. And we found also that non-back supported chest movements. So for example, a push-up versus a bench press. Okay, bench press, their back is squished against the bench, but their back moves unevenly. So that's not healthy. So we have to find non-back supported chest movements. So it helps whenever you take notes of this stuff, because that would be very hard to remember offhand any time they come in, to remember, okay, I need to be careful of their knees. I need to make sure I don't bend their knees past 90 degrees. I know that I can't do too much hamstring work. I also know that anytime I do back, it's going to be uneven, so I have to remember that actually happens. So you have to do unilateral movements, not movements that are pinned where the hands have to move at the same speed and same time. Then you have to do non-back supported chest movements. That's a lot, okay? So writing that stuff down is super helpful. The next thing I have is a general notes. So maybe just something I want to remember, or like, hey, last time we talked about adding box jumps to their training. So I'll remember to add box jumps. And then the final one is life notes, where you have like kids' name, spouse's name, things that maybe are important to them, like coming up as a vacation they have, or maybe they're dealing with, life issues. So such as like a divorce. So it might be something where you want to kind of check in every now and then and see how they're doing, and or understand that if they come in one day underfed and kind of frazzled, not to rip their head off because they got a lot of shit going on. Okay. So these are things that are very, very, very helpful to track. And I promise you, because I've done it now, is it doesn't take more than 1 minute to update per client. Because not everything I explained right here in the last 10 minutes happens in one session. Okay? So often in many sessions, you just update 1 or 2 things, or sometimes nothing. You just check it and say, yep, that went as planned, move on. So it helps a lot. Now, I do understand that if you're overwhelmed, adding the idea of creating this document will seem stressful. It'll seem like added stress. And you're going to say, I don't have time for that, or I don't think that's important enough. Bullshit. Find time, and it is important enough. So I've been personal training now for 17 years, and I promise you, it is important enough to make this paper. Okay? So please, please, please listen. This does help. This is extremely helpful to your clients and to you. It'll relieve some anxiety. It'll relieve some feelings of being overwhelmed. And it'll help you ensure that you give your best effort to your client. Okay? So we have to remember the golden rule of life here is do for others what you'd want done for you. So just as I went to that person who helps me with therapy and I wasn't remembered, that didn't leave a very good feeling, okay? So yeah, the physical treatment I got felt good, but the personal treatment did not, and that left an overall negative feeling. I wouldn't want to give that feeling to my clients, where after our training session they left saying, I don't think he remembered anything I needed at all. Blah, that kind of hurts. That would feel bad to make somebody feel like that. Now, I probably have, and I'm unaware of it, and I apologize to anybody I did do that to. But man, that's a bummer. So I definitely don't want to do that to somebody knowingly, or if it's something that I can prevent. So this is a paper. This is an idea or a concept. Maybe there's an app out there in the world I'm not aware of. And if there is, by the way, please share that, and then I'll share it on the podcast. But these are things we can do to ensure not only do we give our best product, we can also control our stress and anxiety and feeling of overwhelmed and make our life easier. And we can also ensure that our clients feel better taken care of and better appreciated. So it's a win-win-win. You get better product, you feel less stress, they feel more important. Win-win-win. So it's definitely worth it. So you have to kind of remember, what experience do you want your clients to have? Do you want them to think of you as, oh, they're a great trainer, but I don't think they really even care about me? Ugh, that's not good. Or would you rather have them say, that person's a great trainer and a great friend? That would be much better, right? That makes you feel good. So this is just an idea. Give you some food for thought. Okay, and I do hope you do this. Just try it even with just like maybe your top 5 clients, whoever you feel like brings you the most money or is the most important or the most exciting to train. Just pick maybe 5 clients and start recording it for 5 clients and see how it goes. See if you like it. See if it feels better during their sessions. And it will, I promise. So then hopefully you'll fill out the rest of your clients for the same idea. Cool? Okay. So remember your clients, remember some details, remember their training details, but also some life details. Make sure that they feel like they matter, which is exactly what we would want to feel in our life as well. Cool. If you like this podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is for you, so I know what you want to learn about. And you can tell us at our email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.